Jamb 2026 candidate, welcome to today's lesson. Here we are continuing with our biology lecture, destroying the Jamb syllabus. We have no time. I have to be very fast because we have to increase our pace so as to meet up. Okay, we have a lot to cover. All right, you know biology is very irregular. So get your pen and your biology notebook, jot down everything you hear in this lecture, anything you understand in this lecture, and let's go. Jamb 2026 candidate. Today we are looking at internal structure of a flowering plant. Flowering plants, which are angiosperms, have specialized organ adapted for function like anchorage, which is holding on to something. That's anchorage. To anchor, hold on to something. Okay. Support and photosynthesis. We will focus on the transverse section of the root, stem, and leaf, relating their structures to what function, because this is what Jamb said we should focus on. All right. That's why we are focusing on that. Okay. So supporting tissue include the supporting tissue in flowering plants. Okay. Remember, we have the flowering plants, which are the angiosperm, and the non-flowering plants, which are the gymnosperm. Okay. Both of them are the subclasses of the spermatophyta. Remember, we treated classification. Biology is too sweet. So the support tissue include the collenchyma, which is flexible support tissue. It is flexible, okay, and its support tissue is called collenchyma. Okay, you can call it collenchyma, okay, but I call it collenchyma. All right, that's my own way of pronouncing it. That's the easiest way I remember it, collenchyma. But you can also join me in my collenchyma. But there are teachers that call it collenchyma. All right, so this one is the sclerenchyma. Okay, you can call it your sclerenchyma, but I call it sclerenchyma. All right, so sclerenchyma is rigid support. It's very what? It's rigid. It's strong. Remember, collen is flexible. Laba laba, laba laba, oh, laba laba. But for sclerenchyma is rigid. Okay, and under the support we still also have xylem, and xylem is for what? For water transport. Water and mineral salt transport. That's the two major functions of the xylem. It transports water and salt, okay, from the roots, okay, to the other parts of the plant. All right. So we also have what? Phloem, okay. We have phloem for what? Food transportation. All the food we form for leaf during photosynthesis, okay. The phloem transports what? Food from the leaf to the other parts of the plant. And you have to know that the phloem is fibrous, okay. The phloem tissue, the tissue of this phloem and this xylem, both the xylem and the phloem, they have fibrous tissues, okay. What is fibrous tissue? Tissues made of fiber. All right, tissues made of fiber. All right, roots. So we are now looking at roots as a structure of plants for adaptation. Okay, as a structure in plants that adapt it to its environment. All right. So what is the structure of the root? Okay, transverse section shows, because now transverse section Jamb say make we learn. All right, what is transverse section? Transverse is my hand be like this now. You cut them for here like this. Cut and come out. Okay, that inside, that place where you see for the top is transverse. It's like cutting half, slice something half like this, not like this. Like this is longitudinal, okay? Like this is longitudinal, straight, parallel. But like this is transverse. So if you want to get the transverse view of my neck, you have to cut off my neck so that you can see the transverse view, okay? You are going to see all the lining, all the circle, every structure, circular part in the structure, the particular structure that you intend to view transversely. Transverse section shows in roots a central stele, okay? In that center, you have what is called stele, that middle there, okay? And that central stele is called the what? The vascular cylinder. That place, now this stele, now carry both the xylem, the phloem, the pits, everything there inside, the pericycle, everything there inside there. So star shape. In this stele, you have the xylem, which is star shape in dicot plants. And you have the phloem too in it, all right? So remember, in dicot plant is star shape in the root too, Surrounding is what? The endodermis. So surrounding this stele is the endodermis, the cortex, and the epidermis with root hair. So one way to easily differentiate the roots, the cross section of the root from the stem of plants, when you see it in the diagram, is the root hair. That one is one of the key method of differentiating it. Okay, you are going to see root hair for root. Okay. Another thing where you say you will still see again. Now this xylem in dicot plant that is star shape. All right, is star shape in dicot plants. All right. So it's not like that in the stem. Okay, the stem is entirely something different. Okay, so the function of the root is for anchorage. It helps the plant to anchor to the soil. Okay, it holds the plant to the soil. It helps the absorption of water / what? Minerals, like I told you, mineral salts, various salts, via root hair. So it is through the polarity of the root hair. Okay, that's projection from the roots. That's where the plant absorbs mineral salts and water through those porosity, those small pores from there, permeable, semi-permeable membrane, all right, in the roots. So we are looking at the xylem. The function of the xylem is to transport water upward, okay? It takes water from the roots or from the soil to the other body of the plants upward, all right? Then for the phloem, it distributes nutrients, all right? It distributes nutrients from the leaf to the other parts of the plant after photosynthesis, all right? So for the supporting tissue, They include the xylem vessel and the sclerenchyma. Remember, sclerenchyma is rigid, collenchyma is flexible. All right. So xylem vessel, that's what provide the major support, and the sclerenchyma, they provide rigidity, and they make the plant, they stand strong, they fall. Even though wind they blow, the plant will do like this, go break. All right. The distribution: xylem in the center, then you have the sclerenchyma in outer layers for strength. So xylem this center, then you have sclerenchyma outer layer. So if you are cutting a tree now with a cutlass, for example, you are going to meet the sclerenchyma first. You are going to cut the sclerenchyma first before you cut the xylem. Now, this is a cross section of the roots. Okay, we have the monocot on the left hand side. You know what monocot plant is? A plant with two seed leaf or cotyledon. While you have the what? The dicot roots on the right hand side, from a dicot plant. Now let's look at all the structure we just explained. All right. So since here, where is the xylem? Let's look for the xylem first. Let's look at the last thing we just treated. Okay, this is the xylem. Okay, this is the xylem. Remember the shape in the dicot plants. Star shape in the dicot plant. Can you see star? Can you see how it looks like star here? Star. Okay, this is the xylem. Okay, all this is the xylem. So this surrounding of the xylem here is the sclerenchyma. Here is the what? Sclerenchyma. Look at it on the monocot plant too. You can see it, sclerenchyma. So in the monocot plant, you are not going to see this star shape. That's how you are going to differentiate the roots of the monocot plant from the one of the dicot plants. All right, in dicot plant it has this star shaped xylem, but in monocot plant it just have round xylem there, just like pit. Okay, it's just round there. Okay, it just it surrounds the pit. So the outer covering of the xylem is called the sclerenchyma. All right, so you can see this outer circle, this first circle outside here like this, is called what? The epidermis. Draw and label with me in your notes. It's called what? The epidermis. Why this one, this place, so here, this space inside here, so is called the cortex. You can see it on both sides. Okay, both for monocotyledonous and dicotyledonous, both for the monocot roots and the dicot roots. Okay, so you can't have something here and not have that in here. Okay, the only thing you have here and you don't have here is pit. Okay, because the monocot plants are, they are not so rigid. That's why you have pit in the middle. The next we have here is the endodermis. I told you that anything ecto is outside, anything endo is inside, anything epi is outside. Surrounding is epi. Okay, then anything endo inside, anything ecto outside. All right, so this one is endodermis, and that shows us that it's inside. So inside the epidermis, that's where we have the endodermis. So the second cycle here, this cycle now, this first cycle in the internal circles. Okay, the first one here is known as the endodermis. Then after the endodermis, it opens into the structure we call the pericycle. Okay, this is the pericycle. Okay, the next cycle, the cycle that carries the xylem and the phloem, is the pericycle. That's this most inner circle here. This most internal circle here is known as the what? The pericycle. Don't mistake. Don't go and take this one as pericycle. No, this most internal one that communicates directly with the xylem and the phloem, okay, is the pericycle. Okay, then you can see the xylem here. Look at the xylem here. This one that is not shaded, this whitish thing like 000. This is the xylem. Then here, this is the xylem, star shape for dicot plant. Then you can see the phloem surrounding the xylem. Look at here again, the phloem surrounding the xylem. So the phloem usually covers the xylem from the external. So what you are going to see is when coming from inside to outside, you are going to see xylem, you are going to see sclerenchyma, then phloem. So the phloem is covering the xylem. All right, then you have the what? Root hairs. All these are root hairs. Okay, this is one of the easiest way to differentiate between a root stem, though the structures inside the stem and the roots are different. But once you just look and see root hair, just know that it's a diagram of the what? The root of a plant. All right, now let's look at stem as a supportive structure in plants. Okay, is supportive, is also functional. What is the structure of a stem? Jamb says we should look at the cross section that reveals the epidermis, cortex, vascular bundles, which include the xylem inside and the phloem outside, then the pit and the cambium in dicot plants. So in the stem for dicot plant you have cambium. Okay, cambium. And when cambium gets so old, okay, when cambium gets so old, it forms what is called cork cambium, which is what? Area of dead tissue that provide more support to the plant. All right, so what is the function of the stem? Okay, the stem supports the plant. Yes, so the stem is also a transporting structure. It has the xylem, which takes water and minerals up from the roots, okay, or from the soil and the roots to the other parts of the plant, while the phloem does what? It takes food, or it spreads food, photosynthesized food from the leaf to the other parts of the plant. And the stem also is a storage a storage structure. All right, vascular bundles enable conduction, such as cambium allow growth. And what kind of growth does cambium allow? Secondary growth, like I told you. Okay, provide more support. is going to eventually grow into cork cambium, okay, that provides more support, okay. So the collective name of this structure, okay, that help maintain plant functionality, that's the circulation of nutrients and so on and so forth, fluid nutrient, and also that provides support to the plant, we collectively call them vascular bundle, okay, vascular bundles. All right, now let's look at the distribution of stem, okay. Collenchyma in young stem for flexibility. Collenchyma in young stem is for what? Flexibility, like we explained before when we were treating roots. So collenchyma is for what? Flexibility, is flexible, okay, and you have that in what? Young stem. All right, because the young stem are flexible, while the sclerenchyma in older plants is for what? Rigidity. So the collenchyma slowly depreciates, okay, it degenerates as the plant gets mature, okay, it degenerates as the plant matures. So the xylem and the flowing fiber strengthen bundles. Now let's look at the diagram of a monocotyledonous stem and a dicotyledonous stem. On the left hand side we have the monocotyledonous stem, while on the right hand side we have the dicotyledonous stem. All right, for the monocotyledonous stem, for the monocot plant, you can see the phloem, okay, the phloem on top. Remember, phloem is outer, xylem is inside. Phloem is outside, xylem is inside. So you are going to label the phloem more superficially outside, then you label xylem inside. So that's how you label. Then the middle of the monocot stem, you always have pit there, just like the one you have in the monocot root. All right, there's pit there because you know that most monocot plants, they have hole in the center of their, their stem, and they are very flexible. The quantity of collenchyma in monocot plants is higher than the one you have in dicot plants. All right, because monocot plants are more flexible. All right, so the next we have here is the epidermis, just as labeled in the roots that we just discussed. Here is the cortex. This place, this empty place like this, is called the cortex, okay. This is called the pit, xylem and phloem, that's the vascular bundle. All right, here we don't have pericycle, it's only root, that's where we have pericycle. It's only root, that's where we have endodem, okay. So here is epidermis, cortex, pit, and phloem and xylem. Like I always see, phloem is usually outside, xylem is inside. All right, so this is for the dicot plants, and you can see the phloem and the xylem. Phloem is outer part, you have the phloem. Xylem is inner. All right, these both of them are called, they are the vascular bundle, they are among the vascular bundle that helps the plant, maintain life. This outer place, this outer portion is called the epidermis. All right, then this place, this space in between the xylem and the phloem is called the ground tissue, okay. It's called the ground tissue. All right, this ground tissue is a secondary tissue that provides support to the plant. Now let's look at leaf. Remember, we talked earlier that we are going to treat 3 structures that support plant's life. All right, they are vascular bundle, okay, the vascular bundle that supports plant's life, okay, that makes plant live, that make plants adapt to its environment. All right, so the structure of the leaf, Jamb says we should look at the transverse structure, that's the sliced structure. You slice it like this in the middle and look at what you have inside, looking at it circularly from the perimeters. All right, the transverse section of leaf shows upper and lower epidermis. So you have lower epidermis and you have upper epidermis. On the lower epidermis you have cortical that prevents water loss, okay. It helps to prevent water loss. You have cortical there. The transverse section also shows mesophyll, okay, and the mesophyll is the palisade mesophyll. We have 2 types of mesophyll. One is the palisade mesophyll and the other one is the spongy mesophyll. The palisade mesophyll is for what? For photosynthesis, while the spongy mesophyll is for what? Gaseous exchange. Vascular bundle includes veins in the leaf and the stoma, okay. The stoma, the one you call stomata, stomata, that opening, okay, guarded by the guard cell, okay. So the guard cell controls the opening and closing of the stomata. Now let's look at the functions of leaf. The primary function of leaf is photosynthesis through the palisade mesophyll, having the pigments due to the presence of adequate amount of potassium ion, giving it its greenish appearance. All right, leaf also enables gaseous exchange through stomata. It also helps in transpiration. It helps the plant transpirate, losing water when there's excessive water in the plant. All right, so veins such as the xylem and the phloem vein transport water and nutrients in the plant. All right, so these are the functions of the leaf. So the distribution of leaf throughout the plant. What structures do we see there? How is it distributed throughout the plant? You don't only have the leaf in the branches, okay? Its structures are distributed throughout the plant. First we have here is the collenchyma in the midrib for support, okay? Remember, collenchyma is flexible, okay? The second you have here is the sclerenchyma, okay, around the veins for strength, okay? It provides this rigidity to the leaf, all right? That's that for that. Now let's look at the internal structure of the leaf, the diagram, all right? So you can see below this place, under the lower dermis of the leaf, this contains cortical, okay, that helps prevent water loss, okay, over transpiration from the leaf. All right, so what you have here is the guard cell, okay, that controls the stomata. So this opening in the leaf is stomata. So this leaf is a sliced leaf. The cross section, okay, or the transverse view of the leaf, you cut the leaf and use microscope to view that thin blade of the leaf and see the structures there. That's what we are seeing here. That's why you have a leaf here that was cut around the blade. We are looking at it through the leaf blade, okay. We are looking at the structures present. So you can see the upper epidermis where you have the hairy stuff, the hairy-like stuff on it, okay, and you can see the veins and the xylem, okay. The vein consists of the phloem and the xylem. That vein you see in leaf, now phloem and xylem did there. You can see the palisade mesophyll, okay, on the top of the leaf, the first layer after the cortical. That's the palisade mesophyll, and is involved in the production of chlorophyll through potassium ion. Anything photosynthesis, okay, leave it for the palisade mesophyll. So you have the spongy mesophyll that serve as what? Support and gaseous exchange. It stores nutrients, it's spongy, and it also helps transport nutrients too. And that's that for the cross section, or the internal and external structures of the leaf. Now let's look at the internal structure of a mammal. We just looked at plants. Now we are looking at the mammals, okay. Mammals have complex internal organs for digestion, reproduction, and excretion. Key systems include digestive system. These are the most common system and the most vital systems. Digestive system, which include the stomach, intestine, blah blah blah. Reproductive system, which include the ovaries and the testes, and excretory system, which includes the kidney and the bladder. So let's see arrangement, appearance, position, and functions next. What is the arrangement of the system in human body? Organs are organized in the body cavity. For example, you have the thorax, okay? You have the thorax, which houses the lungs and the heart. And where is the thorax? From the base of your neck to your diaphragm. That's under your chest. That is called what? The thorax. And what is cavity? Cavity is a space where you have things inside. So in this case, we have organs in this space. All right, so that's cavity. So the thoracic cavity, we have the lungs and the heart in there. All right, see another cavity here, the abdominal cavity, or the abdominal space. That's where you have the digestive tract and the reproductive tract. You also have the excretory tract there. You also have the pelvic cavity, okay? You have part of the reproductive tract in the pelvic cavity. You have part of the excretory tract in the what? The pelvic cavity. You also have some portion of the digestive tract, such as the appendix of the colon or of the large intestine and the sigmoid colon. You have both of them in the pelvic cavity. All right. So the appearance and position. What is the appearance? What is the appearance of the, the internal parts of the human body? What is the appearance and their position? Digestive organs, for example, they include stomach and is located in the upper abdomen. Okay, upper abdomen. Then you have the intestine, coils below. Okay, the intestine coils below the stomach. Okay, just that place that you have your pumpu, your navel. Okay, that's where you have it. Then the reproductive organs, like the uterus, you have them in the pelvis. Okay, for female. Then the testes, you have it in the scrotum, away from the abdomen, away from the pelvis. It has its own bag that carries it, called scrotum sac. All right, carries the testicular balls. Then for the excretory organs, the kidneys are located in the lower back, the lower portion of your back. Then the bladder is found in the what? The pelvic cavity. All right. So what are the functions? Digestive system break down food. That's its function, and it helps us produce energy. That's for digestive system. Reproductive system produces what? Offspring. Okay. Why what? Excretory system removes what? Waste. Now let's look at the diagram showing the body cavities. Like I told you, the cavity is a body space. That's the meaning of what? Cavity. And in the body cavity, we have one body cavity located at the back of the body, or at the dorsal part of the body, or the ones located in front, okay, of the body, or at the ventral part of the body. The one you have in the dorsal part of the body, the dorsal cavity, is only one cavity, which is called the cranial cavity, the one that carries your brain and your spinal cord. Okay, it runs through your brain down to your what? Your vertebral column. Okay, your vertebral column. So it houses your brain and your spinal cord. All right. So the cranial cavity is located at the back, or at the dorsal part of the body, the dorsal part. All right. So I already told you what it contains. You can see the thoracic cavity. You can see where it starts and where it ends. From the base of your neck and ends where it ends in the diaphragm, or under your chest. All right, just underneath your chest, there, underneath your nipple, that's where it ends. All right, the diaphragm is the landmark. Okay, the diaphragm is the landmark, that's where it ends. All right, and the thoracic cavity, what do you have there? You have the thoracic cage. The thoracic cage consists of the sternum, the sternal bone, and the ribs. Okay, that's the thoracic cage. And inside the thoracic cage, you have the lungs and the heart. Okay, it protects the lung and the heart. Then the next cavity we have here is the abdominal cavity. It continues, or it starts from where the thoracic cavity stops. That's the diaphragm, or under the chest, and stops where? Just below your navel. Okay, that's where it stops, just below your navel. And what do you have in the abdominal cavity? All the digestive organ, the intestines, large and small intestine. You have the pancreas, you have the spleen, you have the liver, you have the gallbladder, you have the which other organ? You have the kidneys there. All right. So that's that for that. Then for the pelvis continues from just under the the umbilicus, the navel, where the abdominal cavity stops, and it ends the cavity. All right, so that's where you have the reproductive organ. Some parts of the digestive organ enters the pelvic cavity, such as the appendix and the rectum. Okay, it enters the pelvic cavity. So how many cavities in the body do we have in total? The arrangement of internal organs, you are supposed to know. Jamb says you are supposed to know where each organs are located. All right, so up here we have brain here. You can see where you have the brain. Then here is the connection between the nose and the mouth. Okay, what connects the nose and the mouth? The pharynx. Okay, the oropharynx is the pharynx connecting to the mouth, while the nasopharynx is the pharynx connecting to the what? The nose. So the nasopharynx connects to where? It connects to the laryngopharynx. Okay, so from the nose, It connects the nose to the larynx. Okay, that's going towards the airway. So the oropharynx connects the mouth to where? The esophagus. All right, that's going towards the digestive system. So at the laryngeal junction here, where you have the larynx, larynx is also called what? Voice box. Okay, it's also called voice box. Okay, and larynx is the opening to your windpipe. Okay, or trachea. Okay, windpipe or trachea. All right. So in that larynx, there is one structure there called epiglottis. Okay, the epiglottis covers the aperture of the larynx where you are swallowing to prevent food from entering the larynx, so that food substance will not enter your airway. You know that the larynx is the first portion of the trachea. Okay, it's just on top of the trachea. It's the entrance of the trachea. So that epiglottis is a flap. It covers it so that food will just slide and pass into the esophagus. Slide, pass, and enter into the esophagus. Then the trachea further forms what is called the bronchus. Okay, or the bronchi, and the bronchi form bronchiole and enters the lungs to form alveoli inside the lungs. That's for the airway. Then the esophagus continues down and gets to here, the stomach. So on the right and the left hand side of the thorax, you have the lung, while in the middle you have the heart. Now this is the stomach connecting from the esophagus. Okay, it's connected to the esophagus. This on the right hand side here, you have the liver. On the right side of the abdominal cavity, you have the liver. While behind the stomach, you have pancreas. Okay, you have pancreas here. Behind the stomach here, you have pancreas. Here you have kidney, just at the back of the abdominal wall. So you have kidney here at the back of the abdominal cavity. All right. Then here you have spleen on the left side. So you have liver on the right hand side. Then you have spleen on the left hand side. All right. So going down, you have the beginning of the small intestine that starts from the stomach, forming the duodenum. Okay. From the duodenum, it forms the jejunum. From the jejunum, it forms the ileum. Okay. And the ileum is the last or the terminal portion of the small intestine that enters or joins to the large intestine. Close to that place, you have appendix. That's called cecum. Okay, cecum. It connects to the cecum, so it continues as the colon. Okay, which is the large intestine. This one that grows like this, like this, like this, like this is the large intestine. So the portion of the large intestine, it starts with the appendix, followed by the cecum, where the ileus of the small intestine connects to the large intestine. And from here to here is called the ascending colon. Then from here to here is called the transverse colon, and from here down here is called the descending colon. Here that bends like this, is called the sigmoid colon. Then here is called the rectum, and the rectum empties into the anus. All right. So here, what you have in front of here, in front you have the urinary bladder connecting to the two kidneys. The pipe that connects to the kidney is called the ureter. Okay, connects the bladder to the kidney. All right, ureter. Okay, do not mistake it for urethra. Urethra is the one that carries urine out from the urinary area or the urinary system, depending of if it's a through the vulva or is through the penis. Okay, so it can be either located around the vulva, some portion of the vulva, you have urethra there, or in the penis. Okay, you have urethra there. But ureter is the one that brings urine from the kidney down into the bladder. All right, so you have it in front, then you have rectum behind. Okay, urinary bladder in front, rectum behind. All right, so here you also have another bladder close to this liver. It's called what? The gallbladder. And what does it do? It stores bile. So the liver produces this bile, then the gallbladder stores it. So that's that for the internal structure or the internal organs in human. Now let's look at nutrition. What is nutrition? Nutrition involves obtaining and utilizing food nutrients. That's nutrition. An animal or an organism obtains food and utilizes the nutrients for growth, development, and maintenance of body function. That's what nutrition. It can also what? Extend to storing of these food nutrients also. So they use it for what? Growth, development, maintenance of body function, and for storage. Okay, for the day that nutrients gets depleted, so that there will be nutrients in the reserve to be used. Okay, pending when nutrition comes, or pending when the organism see nutrients next. All right. So under nutrition we have the modes of nutrition, and the mode of nutrition include the autotrophic and the heterotrophic. There are two types, autotrophic and heterotrophic. So autotrophic nutrition is a self-feeding mechanism. This organism creates their own food and they feed. They create energy by themselves, create their own food, form their own food from the scratch. They use, elements to form their own food from the scratch. All right. And they undergo a kind of metabolism called anabolism. Okay. Anabolism. That's for the autotrophs. They use building blocks to build molecules. Okay, they bring molecules together to build. They form molecules. Okay, they form molecules. That's what anabolism. Okay, it's an anabolic process, autotrophism. All right. Then for the heterotrophism or heterotrophic nutrition, they depend on others. So these heterotrophs depend on autotrophs for food. So they might not depend on only autotroph, but they depend on others for food. They might still depend on their fellow heterotrophs too for food. For example, we are human. We depend on plants for food. We also depend on animals for food. You can see. So heterotroph is mixed. So heterotroph is both autotroph collect from heterotrophs too. So heterotroph will chop from both autotroph, still chop from both in fellow heterotrophs too. So let's look at the types. Vary by organism. The type of nutrition by organism vary depending on the organism, depending on its habitat, depending on its requirement. All right. So let's look that right away. Modes of nutrition. Under the autotrophic, organisms make their own food in the autotrophic, like I explained earlier. Example include plants, which makes their own food via what? Photosynthesis. And what is photosynthesis? Okay, the phenomenon whereby plants makes their own food in the presence of 4 elements, which is water, carbon 4 oxide, chlorophyll, and what? Mineral salts. All right. So all these are required for what? For photosynthesis. All right. And remember, photosynthesis has 2 stages. Okay. The first stage of photosynthesis is called the photolysis. Okay, which is involve breaking of water molecule, and this occur during the day. All right. Then the second stage is called the reducing stage, whereby the sugar is reduced, okay, to glucose. All right, the sugar form is reduced to glucose, and this occur in the dark. So it can be commonly called the light stage and the dark stage. We are going to stress more on that. All right. So examples of organisms that undergo photosynthesis or the autotrophs include flowering plants such as maize, and non-flowering plants too, such as fern. Okay. So, provided you have chlorophyll, you can what? You can carry out photosynthesis, okay? It is chlorophyll that is the pigment required for photosynthesis, whether it is a flowering plant or non-flowering plant. Provided there is chlorophyll there is, or chloroplast, okay? See, if there's chloroplast or that produces chlorophyll, such organism can photosynthesize. The next we have here the heterotroph, the heterotrophic nutrition. These organisms obtain food from others, okay? When you say from others, it could be from autotrophs like plants, such as animals eat maize. Okay, it could be from their own fellow animals, just like as you take the chop goats and cow and chicken. Obtaining food for your fellow heterotrophs. All right. So example include animals, fungi, and fungi are parasitic. All right. Some bacteria included. So some bacteria are also parasitic too. So that's that for that. Now let's look at the types of nutrition. We just dealt with the modes of nutrition, which are 2. Okay, autotrophism and heterotrophism. Now we are looking at the types. Under the type of nutrition, this type of nutrition, you just have that autotroph. Okay, autotrophic nutrition is broken into 2. Autotrophic nutrition is broken into two types. You have the photosynthesis and the chemosynthesis. That's the 2 types for autotrophic nutrition. Then for the heterotrophic nutrition, the types include holozoic, parasitic, saprophytic, and carnivorous. Now let's look at the holozoic. Holozoic ingest whole food. Holozoic organisms ingest whole food. Whole food, they ingest it and break it down and derive energy from it. All right. Example include sheep and man. Okay, those are the examples of holozoic. While for parasitic organism, they feed on host. So it's a relationship, a nutritional relationship between a parasite and a host, whereby the parasite feeds from the host, and the host is what? Is harmed. All right, the host is harmed. Only the parasite gain from the host, and the host is what? Harmed. Example include the roundworm, which are in the family called nematoda. You have the tapeworm, and you have the loranthus. All these are parasites. All right, it is not only animals that are parasitic. Plants are also parasitic, such as the doda. The doda plant, okay, is a parasitic plant. All right, the doda plant, and you also have some other plants that are parasitic too. So let's look at the saprophytic or saprophytes. Saprophytes are organisms that feed on dead matter. All those dead matter that are decaying, that's where they feed. And examples include the rhizopus and the mushroom. They also help decay this organic compounds, this organic substance, this biodegradable substance. They join hands in degrading this substance because that's where they derive energy. That's the source of their power. The next we are looking at here is the carnivorous plant. And carnivorous plant does what? Anytime you hear carnivore, just know that they trap prey. They are predators. Okay, they eat prey. Carnivores are predators that feed on what? Prey. Okay, they prey on other plants. They prey on other plants, or if it is animal, prey on other animal. But here we are talking about carnivorous plants. All right, carnivorous plants, but not just only carnivorous plants. We have carnivorous animal. Okay, but I'm going to emphasize on it. But let's look at carnivorous plants first. The examples here is sundew and bladderwort. Jamb loves setting all these kind of questions. They will ask you which of the following is a carnivorous plant. If you don't know, you don't enter one chance. So that's why I'm giving you the shortest cut to scoring high in Jamb UTME biology. So now let's talk about carnivore. Okay, carnivore are organisms, or let's talk about carnivorous animal. Okay, in essence, carnivorous animal feeds on what? Flesh. All right. Then you have another one, omnivorous. Omnivorous, omnivorous. Omnivorous animal is an animal that feeds both on plant and animal. Okay, plant and animal source. Omni means 2, dual. Okay, dual, here and here, dual. All right. Now let's look at nutrition in plants, and this is for the autotrophic, the types of nutrition, the type of autotrophic nutrition. We just finished looking at the types of heterotrophic nutrition. Now we are looking at the types of autotrophic nutrition. All right. Under the types of autotrophic nutrition, we have photosynthesis and chemosynthesis. And most of the time, photosynthesis is seen in plants. You see, in our plants now they do photosynthesis now. All right. So plant undergoes photosynthesis too. It's an anabolic process that where the elements are utilized or leveraged to form what? Food. Energy is produced from what? Elements. All right. So during photosynthesis, Plants convert light energy to chemical energy, which is food energy in food, the energy in food. They convert light energy from the sun to chemical energy. Light reaction that occurs in the what day, all right, which is called the light reaction occurs in the day. In thylakoid, okay, in what thylakoid, it is called, you can call it thylakoid, okay, depending on how Jamb set question come out to. So you all know that light reaction or light stage is the what thylakoid. Light splits water molecule, okay, water molecule is splitted, and what is formed when water molecule is splitted? ATP, and this NADPH, this is energy, okay. ATP is what? Energy, okay. ATP, so ATP is released and this is also released, this NADH, okay, is released. And the dark stage, so just have it in mind. All you have to know is that, just know that water molecule is splitted and ATP is formed. Just know that, all right? Adenosine triphosphate. So leave this NADPH, leave that one. And in the dark stage, or the dark reaction, is also called the Calvin cycle. The Calvin cycle fixes carbon 2 oxide into glucose. So carbon 2 oxide is converted to glucose. So photosynthesis requires light, sunlight, it requires carbon 4 oxide, and requires chlorophyll. So these three elements are the major elements, though mineral salt is required, but it's not the major element. So these three elements, light, carbon 2 oxide, and chlorophyll are needed. That's why they say during the day, plants are breathing or use carbon dioxide and what? And breathe out oxygen as waste. But during the night, when they are not photosynthesizing, that's when this during this dark reaction, during the reduction of carbon 4 oxide to glucose, plants does not use carbon 2 oxide again. They've already absorbed all the carbon 2 oxide. What they now use at that time is oxygen. Okay, they now use oxygen, so they now breathe like normal human or normal animals. Okay, so it's not all the time that plants taking carbon dioxide, and it's only during that light stage of photosynthesis, that active stage of photosynthesis. All right, so what is the evidence of photosynthesis? What shows us that a plant or an animal is photosynthesizing? Starch test on leaf. And let me quickly walk you through the starch test on leaf. All right, the starch test on leaf is used to identify if photosynthesis has occurred in a leaf or if it hasn't occurred. Okay, that's the presence of starch in the leaf. And how is it done? You pluck a fresh leaf. When you pluck this fresh leaf, you boil the leaf, okay, not boiling, you just pour some hot water in the leaf to kill the leaf. And as you kill this leaf, this helps to activate the enzyme in the leaf, all right? Because if you just perform this experiment like that, it's not going to be efficient. So you have to activate the enzyme in the leaf. And after that, what do you do next? After activating the enzyme in the leaf, you wait for about 5 minutes. Then you add what? You add iodine to the what? To the leaf. Immediately you add iodine to the leaf. If starch is present, the leaf is going to have a blue-black coloration. That's what you are seeing here, blue-black coloration. If starch is not present, the color remains the same. So the formation of this blue-black is as a result of the reaction of starch with iodine. A compound forms when iodine reacts with starch. Okay, the starch present in the leaf. So because starch is present in the leaf, that shows us that photosynthesis has occurred. All right. They can also ask you how to identify if photosynthesis have occurred in a unicellular organism, which is not this kind of flowering plant, okay, where you have leaf, okay. They can ask you, for example, like Chlamydomonas, okay, in the pyrenoid of Chlamydomonas, how do you know that photosynthesis have occurred? Or Chlamydomonas was found to have starch grains on its pyrenoid, okay. What does that mean? Or what does that show? That shows that photosynthesis has occurred. That's why you have starch there. Because starch forms from what? Photosynthesis. The next here, under the autotrophic nutrition, the next type of nutrition under autotrophic is what? Chemosynthesis. Okay? And chemosynthesis is still what? Creating food, forming food with the aid of elements or with the aid of, compounds. Okay? Compounds utilizing available materials present to what? To form food from the scratch. An anabolic process. Okay? It uses chemical energy. That's why the name is chemosynthesis. For photosynthesis, it uses light. That's why you have photo here. Photo means light. Here, chemo means what? Chemical. Okay, then organisms that undergo chemosynthesis include bacteria, especially in deep sea vents. All right, so what thing that they do? They undergo what is called an anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is a respiration where oxygen is used to break down sugar to form ATP and energy. All right, oxygen is used to break down glucose to form what? Energy and ATP. Have you gotten the products now? Energy and ATP is formed, okay, during aerobic respiration. So during aerobic respiration, energy and carbon dioxide is formed. Okay, so aerobic respiration is when oxygen, it's a kind of respiration whereby oxygen is used to break down glucose to form carbon dioxide and energy with the aid of what? ATP. All right, but anaerobic respiration is the opposite of aerobic respiration. Oxygen is not required. Oxygen is not required in anaerobic respiration. What happens in anaerobic respiration? Glucose is breaking down in the presence of limited supply of oxygen, and what is formed? Three things are formed. Lactic acid as a compound is formed during anaerobic respiration, and ethanol is also formed. All right, so what is formed? Lactic acid, ethanol, and energy is formed during anaerobic respiration. And these organisms that undergo chemosynthesis, where they are found there are limited supply of oxygen there. So that's what they undergo. Anaerobic respiration, that's how they convert, okay? They convert, that's the process of this chemosynthesis, converting these chemicals, using it to what? To form energy, all right? So the mineral requirements of plants include the macronutrients and the micronutrients, the micronutrients and the trace mineral, okay? The trace mineral and the minerals needed in very, very, very minute quantity, very small quantity, while the micronutrients are the nutrients required in small quantity, while the macronutrients are the nutrients required in large quantity. Macronutrients makes up almost the food of the plant, okay? Almost, let me say like almost 80% of the food of the plant, okay? While the micronutrients makes up like, let me say like 15% of the food of the plants, while the rest is for the trace minerals. Okay? For the micronutrients in plants, you have the NPK, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, okay? NPK. Then for the micronutrients, this is for the macro, okay? Then for the micronutrients, they include iron, zinc. They are required in small quantity, okay? Smaller quantity than the what? The macronutrients, all right? Then for the trace minerals, you have the molybdenum, all those ones. Molybdenum, chromium, and so on and so forth. Now, let's look at the deficiency of the micronutrients, okay? Because the deficiency of micronutrients is very common here, okay? It's very common that it quickly shows, it quickly appears, the signs quickly appear. So the deficiency in nitrogen, when there is a deficiency of nitrogen in plants, you are going to see a yellow coloration of leaf, pale colored leaf, okay? Then if phosphorus is deficient, you are going to have stunted growth in the plant. While when potassium is deficient, you are going to see weak stem, all right? Weak stem. And so how do we correct this deficiency in plants? Using NPK fertilizer. NPK 15. That's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium 15.